Hotep family, welcome to lesson 16, part 3, Nbt Ht and Nbt Het. If you find this information valuable, hit the like button. If you learned something, hit the share button. If you want to learn more, subscribe. Whatever you do, please comment and share your thoughts. We will read the sacred symbols on the screen as Nbt, reading from right to left. The symbol for Netya is read second, but is written first because of its honorific positioning. The primary objective of this course is to be able to read the sacred script of our African ancestors, Medu Netya. This set of sacred symbols, which is read Medu Netya, is comprised of a walking stick and a pole with a cloth wrapped around the top. The pole is better known to us as a flag. The flag is read as Netcher and may be compared to what our present-day understanding of a flag is, which is the representation of a set of principles or ideas, such as the American flag, the French flag, or the flag of any nation for that matter. If you were joining me for earlier lessons, you remember that this set of Medo-Netya is identified as Gem-Mek, where we see a bird apparently looking for or finding something, and Nefer, which is the heart and windpipe connected together. In previous videos, I translated this into English as Find the Beautiful. This is one way I believe it could be translated into English, but it is not the only possible translation. I plan to do less translating and more reading of the sacred symbols in this video. We will transliterate the sacred symbols using the Roman alphabet. The Medu-Netya that we will read in this video is from the Neb Ankh of Nbt Ht Kara Sarah Jehuti Mes. He is the third in the line of African leaders of Kemet during the 18th dynasty. The 18th dynasty is classified as the New Kingdom in the writings of Manetho. Manetho is an Egyptian high priest who lived during the 3rd century BC and wrote a history of Kemet. So this is the Neb Ankh of Sutin Ht Kara. On one side of the Neb Ankh, we see the sacred image of Nbt Ht. On the other side of the Neb Ankh, we see the sacred image of Nbt Het. So in this lesson, 16, part 3, we will read the Medu-Netya written on the end of the Neb Ankh that has the image of Nbt Het. So here we see Nbt Het kneeling on a Nebu with her hands on a circular canoe. This circular canoe is usually associated with the concept or the idea of eternity. The Nebu is identified as a gold necklace. Above the head of Nbt Het, we read the following sacred text in our previous video. We see that this Medu-Netya is written or inscribed in a elongated canoe. In fact, the elongated canoe contains a smaller canoe, and that smaller canoe contains the prenomen of Ht Kara. If we were to try to read this, we would get Yeti Sut Biti Neb Taui Neb Arit Ht Kara Pen Neb As Neteret Nbt Het. So for this lesson, we will turn our attention to the three columns of Medu Neter inscribed to the left of Nbt Ht. I think there is a reason for Nbt Ht to be facing this text, and I may ponder on that and later on. The first column begins with the Medu Neter inside a lengthy chenille. The chenille is the same length as the column. And inside the chenille, it begins with Yeti En. The reed leaf with the walking legs is read E. The extra ripple of water gives us the N. So we get En. Yeti En. The ripple of water followed by the plural strokes is read as N or possibly Anu, since the ripple of water is plural, and we usually replace that with the U symbol. So I'm going to refer to Gardner's grammar for some of this text, and specifically this ripple of water with the plural symbols behind it. We see, according to Gardner's text, it fits into the category that in English we call pronouns. This would be the first person plural, which translates in English as we or us. So next we see the tethered rope, the post, and the ripple of water. The sacred symbol directly above the post is not clear. It could be the Medu Neter symbol representing a tongue of land, but I am not sure. One possibility for the symbol above the post could be the door bolt, which is kind of hard to say, but if it is that, then we would get the symbol of the tethered rope, the door bolt, and the post, which we pronounce as chessi, translating it as a T-C-H-I. I don't do the T with the underline. So chessi conveys the idea of to lift or to support or to raise. It's hard to see, but I'm gonna believe that there is a loaf of bread to the top right of the ujik, which would match the loaf of bread on the bottom left, and in which case that would give us the Medu Neter for tut, t-ut. We can see Ankh and a ripple of water followed by the placenta, so we know that that will be read as Ankh with its phonetic complements. So altogether, we read this as Tut Ankh, which is a familiar set of words. And then finally, this Medu Neter is the heart, which is Ib, and the is what it is symbol, followed by the basket with the handle, which is Ek. So we would read this as Ib Ek. So it kind of represents it is what it is, your heart. So in the Shanu, what we have reading from top to bottom and reading left to right, Yeti En Chesi Tut Ankh Ibka. So the next two columns are outside the Shanu. The second column begins with um, the walking stick and the cobra, followed by the reed leaf and the ripple of water. So that is read as Yeti En. Very similar to the first what's inside the Shanu, which is Yeti En. In this case, the reed leaf does not have walking legs, so it is just En. So in this slide, we see the symbol of the Neb symbol, which is again often translated as Lord, and the symbol of the temple. So on the head of Nbt Ht, we have the symbol for Lord and the symbol for temple. On the head of Aset, we have the symbol for the throne on which the Neb sits. Very interesting combination. So these sacred symbols, this middle netya is the representing the intestines, which is pronounced care, the mouth being the R or the phonetic complement, and we add the ripple of water to that. That gives us care in, and this is followed by the determinative for a clump of papyrus or papyri. These metal nature symbols are somewhat difficult to make out in the photo. It looks like the swallow and loaf of bread, which would give us wert, which is followed by the symbol for nature, the reed leaf, and the ripple of water. But I cannot identify anything below the ripple of water. Weird nature would translate in English to great nature. The third column begins with the suit plant, followed by the loaf of bread and the ripple of water. This is a title of the ruler of the Upper Nile Valley region. We usually pronounce this as Sut. Su by itself is a pronoun and can be translated in English as he or him. Su is usually or often followed by various determinatives, and because it names the thing. So Su 10 is naming is again naming what will follow after it. So suit is followed by the name A Keper Kara. Sometimes we will say Nasut. Sometimes I've heard Sutin. But Sut identifies the prenomen. So this Nasut Biti is usually identified by his Sarah name, which is Jehuti Mes. The Greeks called him Thutmoses, and since he was the first with that name, they called him Thutmoses the first. So in this image, I think what I can see is a tongue of land followed by a sphere, um, and then we have the ripple of water, the jar stool, the twisted flax, and that would give us something like Engi. Well, without the twisted flax, actually, the twisted flax, the arm and the hand, and the loaf of bread with uh, the three pieces of flesh behind it would be ha'u, and then we have the horned viper, which is F. Somehow, I think this is related to the fact that uh, this Nasud Biti was continuing the legacy of his father and grandfather by continuing to fight with the Hyksos. He chased the Hyksos out of the area of Kemet and extended Kemet all the way up through Palestine and Syria. So I believe that this is somehow related to that idea. So the relief and stool convey the idea or concept of reckoning. Um, it is followed by second person singular pronoun thee or thou. The remaining Medu Neter text is illegible. So this is what we have if we do the transliteration into the Roman alphabet. And if I try to read this from left to right, going down the column, I would get Yeti in Nbt Het, Ker in Wert Netjer in. Suten a Keper Kara G Hau F Ip Chen. And I would offer the following reading for the Metonetya that is, again, to the left of and in front of the Netcheret Nebethet. It starts as Yeti Ien en Chesi Tut Ank Ib Yeti in Nebhet Ker in Wert Netcher in. Sutin a Keper Kara Nji Hau F Ip Chen. So returning to the full image on the Neb Ankh, we see there is another Shinu to the right and behind Netret Nebet Het. So let's do our best to read that. So it begins with Yeti En. So we see the sacred symbol of what might be a loaf of bread, I am not sure, ripple of water, and the plural strokes. So this could be a variation of Chenu or Chen, which is the pronoun you. And below what I'm identifying as Chen, we see the reed leaf and the mouth, which is kind of hard to make out, which is ear, and it ends with the determinative of 3 pieces of flesh. And at the bottom, we see the pronoun, which is the basket with the handle, which is again translated as you and transliterated with the letter K. So I'm going to suggest we read this Metonetya as Enen Ha'autka. I can see the pronoun en, and I want to believe that the scribe used what we call today for poetic license to place it so that it would help with the symmetry of the inscription inside the Shanu. But beyond the pronoun, and we do see the twisted flax, the arm and a hand, the loaf of bread, and again the pieces of flesh. And at the bottom of that, we see the basket with the handle. So completing the Shanu, we see the Metonetya Ankh Gestka. I find it significant that Nechereti, Set, and Nebet Het were referred to as 1/4 each earlier. So together they would represent 1/2 of your life, where Ges represents half, and Ankh, we know, represents life. So an attempt at reading this final Shanu, my best effort, I get Yeti en Chenu Irdk Enen Haut Ti Ka Ankh Yesti. So just summing up what we have seen, this Medu is written all over this Neb Ankh. And at each end, there are Netureti representing 1/4, and together they represent the female 1/2 of the Ankh of Nasut Biti Keper Kara Sarah Jehuti Mes. 3,000 years ago, our African ancestors, scribes, wrote enough information on this one Neb Ankh to fill a few books. It's time for us to know what our ancestors were are trying to tell us. So we can clearly see Nbt Ht is at our head and Nbt Ht is at our feet. And together they represent one half of our Ankh, everlasting life. I appreciate your participation in this learning. Please remember, if you find this information valuable, like. If you want others to learn something, hit the share button. If you want to learn more, please subscribe and check out some earlier lessons. I look forward to your comments. Shem Hotep.